So I have a question for you. What do you do when something doesn't go right in your dye studio? Well, if you're like me, you laugh it off a bit and then you just keep trying. And that's pretty much what I do quite a lot of the time here at Color Quest. Hi, this is Margaret Byrd. I'm so happy to have you back. Today is a video about problems, actually. It's about an attempt to do something and it didn't work. So I'm gonna walk you through what I did the first time I tried to extract indigo pigment from fresh leaf. I had a wonderful experience watching others do that very successfully at the Indigo Fest in August of this year. And when I went home and tried to do it, not so successful. So let's jump in and invite you along my journey of trial and error. And hopefully it will give you some encouragement to keep trying when things don't go quite as planned. So I've stripped the leaves of what I have. I've put them into this glass jar. Now I'm going to be adding the water that I've sort of collected over the last week or so that all of this indigo has been sitting in. It already has a really beautiful cast to it. Don't know if it's going to have any pigment in it, but I'm guessing it might. And why not use that as the recycled or repurposed water for what these leaves are now going to sit in for some time. How much time? I don't know. Could take a few days. It could take longer. This is all about using your senses, smelling. They suggest tasting. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but certainly smell is a big indicator of things changing, and I'll be using my eyes. One thing I did learn from the Indigo Fest, and something that I actually try to practice within my own dye studio, is just experimentation. The way you learn is by trying, and you might uncover some pretty remarkable things. Let's get that water into this glass jar. Then I'm actually going to use a little trick that they showed us, and that is to take the stripped stems and use those to push the indigo leaves down. They've got to be fully submerged in the water, and we can use those stems to do that. Otherwise, people will use mesh with maybe rocks on top, even rocks themselves. Don't want to smush it too much, but you do want it to be fully submerged. So let's get that water in there. There's the water. Don't know if you can see sort of green cast to it. And here are the stems. So we'll be pouring that into this, which has all my leaves. Not a lot of leaves, and quite frankly, I've never done this before, so it's a perfect amount to test with, and we'll see what we get. All right. Let's add the water. There must be an answer, or am I wasting what is left? And there is such thing as a vision of a story I'd like to live. But when you're stuck inside a prison, you never know how long to give. And there we have it, all sealed. It's gonna sit in the sun now and do its magic. To think in negatives, I don't like to think too much. No need for any sedatives, but sometimes I feel messed up.
I like to think in positives, and that always seems enough. But there's far too much to think of when you're laying on your own.
All right, so you've seen me coming out here, poking at it, opening it up, smelling it, as Iris and Britt would say, using all of my senses. They said 6 senses. I think the 6 is like your indigo sense. And watching for some shift that's going to happen. Now you'll notice that the color now is really very much like antifreeze or mermaid juice color. It's a gorgeous color. And that top has that metallic shimmer to it, and it's starting to grow probably some kind of mold. But it smells super strong, like fermentation might smell. So, you know, think rotting farmland. And I'm going to call it that it is probably ready for the next step. The next step is going to involve removing the leaves and introducing oxygen into it. So I'm going to do a slow decant to get the leaf matter out through a strainer. We'll put the liquid back into the glass jar and start shaking. I mean, look at that. It's so beautiful. I mean, I've enjoyed watching this the last 2 weeks. I think it's been about 2 weeks. And dang, that is deliciously gross. The smell is really, really strong, but oh, it looks pretty in its own way. So yeah, let's start decanting and getting those leaves out. The odor is quite specific. So you really gotta love this. I think as you do more and more of it, it actually becomes kind of a nice scent for you, because it means you are working towards collecting enough of this beautiful plant to create the magic that is indigo. So I've taken out all the leaves. Now I'm going to put that beautiful mermaid juice back into the jar, close it, and shake it. I'm going to be doing that because I want to introduce oxygen to it, aerate it. Now you can do this many different ways. I'm obviously doing a very small sample, let's just put it that way. It's a great way to start. I've never done this before, so before you start harvesting bucket loads, this is a great way to just test it out, see what you learn, see what you get. So I'm just going to shake it in the glass jar for about 3 to 5 minutes. You can use some kind of a paint mixer, you can use a blender, you can use one of those immersion blenders. You can just put it back and forth between 2 different glass jars if you want. You just want to be able to get oxygen into it. Now, anything you use in this process, do not use for your cooking and your food. Always use these utensils that are marked specifically for working in your natural dye studio. So, easy for me. I'm just going to put the top on and get to shaking. 3 to 5 minutes. All right, I've shaken it up, and my roommate is like, oh gosh, who pooped? It's some serious barnyard smells. But I'm now going to be adding the calcium hydroxide, the calx, which is what's going to take this into an alkaline state. So we're going to only use 1/4 teaspoon. We're going to add it, shake it up, and then hopefully we will see the pigment drop down to the bottom. It's getting dark here, so we'll see if I can film that.
And there's not that much to think about, 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 and there's not.
So I came out this morning and I was hoping that it would have separated. The calx is going to raise the pH. It's also going to act as a flocculant, which is going to grab onto those molecules of the blue stuff. But I checked the pH, and my pH is not strong enough. Came in just at about 7, and I need this thing to get up to 11. So I'm going to add more calx and try to see if I can push it up in the pH spectrum.
I wish I could see the future, I wish I could see what's left. I know there must be an answer, or am I wasting what is left? And there is such thing as a vision of a story I'd like to live. But when you're stuck inside a prison, you never know how long to begin.
All right, friends, it's going to be one of these videos, and I'm actually really excited to share that with you. This is how it goes. Now, I have never extracted pigment or tried to extract indigo pigment from fresh leaf, and this is my first attempt. I saw it done several times at the Indigo Fest, and it seemed like they were always successful. But then again, they are experts. And I think this is a wonderful lesson for myself as well as for everyone out there, that the best way to learn is by doing. And when you have hiccups or bumps or things don't go right, just keep trying. I'm going to shift it up now. So, what are some of the things that could have happened? I'm fairly certain the biggest problem I had was that I was over fermented. When I opened up that top, the smell was rank, and I don't think it's supposed to be that rank. I also think it was pretty hot for the last week or 10 days, and I left it out there because the color still looked beautiful, and it was that really awesome mermaidy green blue, but I was fooled by that, and I'm fairly certain that I was way too fermented on the leaves. So what else? It could be temperature, could be water, could be the vessel it was in. It was in glass. It was fairly hot, and then it was cool. I didn't measure any temperatures at all. I never do. And also, maybe I didn't aerate it long enough or strong enough. I didn't put enough oxygen in. All of these things are possibilities. Could have been that the leaves were already too old. I did bring them back from the Indigo Fest, and they had been cut at least a week prior. So maybe they had already kind of given up some of their pigment, probably, but maybe they were already well into the fermentation process and I only needed like a day or two. Who knows? All of these things are learning by doing. So now, this time, I'm going to take freshly cut indigo from my pots. It's going to be completely different than the indigo that I got from the northern coastline of Oregon, thanks to Britt and Iris. I'm going to put it right in a pot. I'm going to use hot water to start the process because, although I don't want to rush it, I am going to be leaving here very soon, and I want to push it along, or let's say urge it along a little bit. It's going to be warm the next couple of days, or warmer, so I'm hoping that the fermentation, I'll start to see that mermaidy color sooner, and I will open it every day and I will look at it. I will smell it. It should, I believe, have more of that kind of sweet and sour indigo smell. If you know it, you know it. And I think if it starts to push too much in the rank department, I've gone too far. I think that's a really common, I don't like to say mistake, but a common thing that happens when you're first starting, because you just don't know. Is it ready? So I'm changing all of those things up, and maybe it'll work this time. I don't know. So let's get to harvesting from my pots, stripping back the leaves, putting them into the pot, getting them submerged underneath the water, and Maybe I'll try it a little different way this time for that. And then we are gonna let it sit and we're gonna check on it. So let's go.
Not that much to think about, and there's not that much to think about, and then I'll keep saying it round and round. I'll keep saying it round and round. I wish I could see the future, I wish I could see what's left. I know there must be an answer, or am I wasting what is left? And there is such thing as a vision of a story I'd like to live. But when you're stuck inside a prison, you never know how long to give.
So I'm sorry to say I have to leave you there. And the reason for that is that I left my home studio and I couldn't finish. However, I did ask my daughter's friend, who is a roommate of mine, if she would be watching and smelling the indigo for several days after I left. And after about a week, we made a combined decision based on her visual and her nose that we would remove the leaves. So we'll see when I get home. I should have a beautiful jar of semi-mermaid juice waiting for me, and then maybe I can try to finish the extraction process for pigment. Next week on Color Quest, let's have a little more success, huh? What do you say? We're going to do one final video here based on indigo and the generosity of things received from the Indigo Fest, and that is an indigo vat. I was gifted an iron vat, and I'd like to do some shibori tie and see what beautiful designs and prints we might be able to make on cotton. So have a great week, and I can't wait to see you back here next Friday. Remember to share the good word with friends who might be interested in indigo or anything that we look at in terms of natural color here on Color Quest. Subscribing, thumbs up, sharing, it's all very helpful. I have several free PDFs down below, as well as a digital class. And if you are still watching, I'm going to be running a workshop in Baja, Mexico next spring, March 2024. So check that out as well. Would love to have you with me at a beachfront dye studio. Take care.